Welcome. It's December 1st, 2020. I'm Joe Weston, and we're here for our weekly online global practice for reviving the global heart. And it's great to see familiar faces. It's great to see new faces. It's great to see familiar faces that I haven't seen for a while. It's great to see the mix of that. And as always, we gather from various countries and cities around the world to create this community of people who hold in their hearts the possibility and the hope for a world that can manifest lasting peace, and who acknowledge the challenges we're in at this time and are looking for ways to cultivate deeper levels of resilience and fierce compassion that with them alone and within community, with this idea of holding space for a revival of the global heart, as some might say, a restoration of the global heart, as a way of reminding us who we are and our highest values. And as you know, for those of you who come, so what we do is we usually start with a little talk. I lead us in a meditation, and we have time for discussion. And every third Tuesday, we bring in someone to speak, someone that at least I try to bring in someone who inspires me and I feel is holding a beautiful space of within in their own ways of what that means, reviving the global heart. And this week, I've invited Jeff Hilliard, who you probably see come often to these meditations, but I feel that this man has so much to offer in terms of his gifts. I would say he's a scholar, he's a teacher, he's a counselor, he's a healer, he's an artist, and he's a lover of the world. Is anybody who would disagree with what I just said? Do I get any amens on that? And what I most admire about Jeff is his capacity to hold really high concepts, intellectual, philosophical, spiritual concepts, and always bring that back to love. And that's all I'm going to say about Jeff, and give him space to share. Hi, Jeff.
Joe, everybody, hello. Thanks for the invitation. So another thing I could say about myself is, in terms of that high conceptual and down to the heart, is I'm a regular paradigm jumper. Like I don't hang out in any one model very long before I kind of get itchy for the next piece, and then I do a lot of knitting. Like how does this align with that? How can we see like a core practice perhaps more clearly by bringing some other model alongside, and kind of see what happens when the two frames get close. So that's what I want to do in this time, is I want to bring close to the reviving the global heart, close to this core practice that we do on Tuesday mornings, fierce civility, respectful confrontation, the whole thing, to bring close to that a model about games, about game denial, game acceptance, and game change. And these ideas come from, or came to me from a guy named Hansi Freinacht, who, here's one of his books. I recommend him extremely highly. He is a political philosopher who is writing and theorizing about what are the structures that we can enact which would create a world in which every being has an opportunity to develop in health. So that's really the frame. What are the structures? What are the politics, education, economics, et cetera, that would allow all beings to develop in health? So, and one of the frames in this is this idea about games. And so here we go. So the entry point is to be able to think about the word game as not meaning it doesn't matter, not meaning it's just for kicks, but game meaning it's a system that has players in it, and it follows a set of rules and their outcomes. And in fact, they're winners and losers. So we do live in a world where a lot of the things of the world are finite. And so we are playing for stuff. And some people win and some people lose. And we're all inside these systems of rules and structures. And at times you're going to see me look over here because I put up some notes so I would stay on track. So for example, like in the level of games, I was cleaning out my files the other day, and I found these files, these rejection letters from when I was applying for college teaching jobs. And the letters would say things like, "Thank you so much for your slides. We received 300 applicants." And as I was looking at it, I was like, right, I used to be in a game where I wanted the thing, and there was one of them, and so did 299 other people. Got it. Or there are only so many beach houses. Not everybody gets a beach house. Or there happen to be 100 seats in the Senate. You don't get to say that we want more of a certain kind of politician, so let's add another 10 seats. So there is this sense that we're involved in these games, and some people win and some people lose. And so how do we relate to it? Now, there's game acceptance, there's game denial, and there's game change. And to rush to the conclusion, what we're involved in our best modes in these practices is game change. Like we want to have a double thumbs up on game change, and we want to interrupt ourselves, catch ourselves playing the other two modes because they are less productive. So game denial is, I don't want the world to be this way. You know, I have felt it at times in these, in this work that we do together. Like, shit, really? I've got to learn how to deal with confrontation, and confrontation is better than conflict. And there really is violence, and I do need to be able to kind of protect myself against violence. And I, you know, like I mean, maybe I imagine many of us can relate to like, can't we just transcend all this? Like if I just open my heart and I treat you kindly and you treat me kindly, can't we all just kind of get along? Okay. Game denial, right? It reminds me last week the word humanity came up, and it was like, you know, greet each other in our humanity. And does that mean our goodness, or does that mean the full range of what we do, including deception and violence and competition and ugliness? So when we want to relate to each other from the place where there's no muck, there's no violence, there's no shadow, then we're in the mode of game denial, because that's just not how it works. When I reflect on an issue that we've been in together in the last 8 months, Shelley and I went to after George Floyd's death, we went to a protest here in Boston, and seeing all the people with the signs, "Abolish the police." I'm like, wait, that's game denial, right? I get the point. The point is transform something, but game denial tends to flatten a complex issue into one thing. Like if we only got rid of the police, everyone would be fine, right? Like we wouldn't, no. That's a game denial is a compression of complexity, usually associated with a kind of moral superiority. I get it more than you do. We're the good guys. You guys aren't so good. So that's all a model of game denial. It's not particularly helpful. The flip side is game acceptance, which is, hey, this is just how the world works. These are the best possible systems we've got. If it's not working well for you, that means you're not working hard enough, right? It's that kind of pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And in the midst of that, there's also the sense of it's so entrenched, it's so established, there's not a hell of a lot we can do. That's all game acceptance, right? Yeah, we'd like a better world, but look at all the power interests, all the covert cabal of the bad people, look, you know, holding us back. There's not a lot we can do except the game. in that police model, game acceptance sounds like, hey, the law is fair, needs to be enforced. If you're coming up on the wrong side of the law, just amend your behavior. There's no bias here, right? That's a kind of game acceptance. This is the best system we've got, so live with it. In game denial, we set ourselves up for failure because we're not working with reality. In game acceptance, we accept harmful structures as the status quo, as fact, when actually they're changeable. We allow ourselves to be complacent when we're inside game denial, game acceptance. So game change, that's where the action is. And in a lot of ways, it's what we're doing, right? I mean, Joe's ask of me was to find a way to really be in the place of how do these ideas relate to what we're doing? So the core practice itself is an enactment of game change. Because to change the game, you got to be in the game. And you got to have skills in the game. And you've got to keep showing up for the game. And in a deep way, a profound way, if you really want to change the game, you got to love the game. It's that kind of like, Joe, I've seen you in action, in retreat. You're having the best time, right? Particularly, I mean, anybody who's been in a retreat with Joe, and there's the person who's there who is the problem child, right? Who's like not buying the system, coming up with all the objections. And Joe just kind of like, yay, right? Because the pleasure is being in the game. And then when we're in the game, we can change the rules. And we can change the rules so they are, in fact, more fair, more inclusive, more transparent. We can teach each other the skills about how to be successful in the game. So fewer people are out on the edge getting the short end of the deal and saying, I don't have no idea what to do, right? So when we do these practices, what we're really doing is we're saying, yeah, I want to be in it. And I want to be successful in it. I want to be effective in it. So one of the pieces is to see it for what it is. And there is a truth-telling piece, which a few years back, Shelley and I, so Shelley's also in one of the squares and she and I live together. And in relationship, we kept finding that the game we were playing included being clear-sighted and kind. We thought, wow, that's an awesome combination. Like, so in terms of the world's game, to be clear-sighted, this is actually what's happening. 70 million Americans did actually vote for Donald Trump. That's actually what's happening, right? A Biden presidency, you know, I'm owning my politics, right? A Biden presidency is a good thing, but it doesn't change the whole game. So let's be grateful and see that it's so much more complex than that. So to be clear-sighted and kind. The other is, and again, I feel like I'm not saying anything that we haven't done together, but know your values. What's the goal? Like, what kind of game, what's winning in this game look like? And so there are these things about inclusion, fairness, restoration, moving from the heart. Like the game that we're playing is a heart game, as much as it's also informed by concepts. And it's hard work, right? It takes effort. And so these things like, hey, strength, flexibility, focus, grounding, it's what we need. So the world does actually require fierce civility. And notice it's like the game denial says, no, not really. Let's just activate everyone's heart and we'll all get along and solutions will just kind of mushroom up out of the ground. And the game acceptance piece is good luck, everybody. You can't really do anything. So when we gather, part of what we're doing is game change. Even in doing this, right? We are like, together, we set our goal, which is reviving the global heart. Together, we kind of stake a claim in the possibility of it. This game can be changed to be a more beautiful game for all of us. And in response to the fact that it's hard work, part of the reason I come to this is because my heart needs restoration. And I recently, it's been really powerful for me to realize that that this kind of holding the people in my heart, like, yeah, I'm doing it for the other, but there's also, particularly over the last few months, a way in which I'm doing it for myself. Like, I need to be held in the heart. I need to be held in my own heart. And so that's that quality of a restoration. It is genuinely, at times, overwhelming. I mean, right? You know, there's a lot of change, game change that is needed. And so part of the restoration is personal. And there's also a way in which that personal restoration is my access to the global heart. Like, I think, okay, right. How do I actually connect to the global heart? I connect through my own heart. That's the portal. And then in the midst of it being the portal, it's also the agent. The change that I can enact, or the restoration I can enact in my heart, is contribution to the wildly large project of the global heart. And yeah, I know I just hit my 15-minute mark, but I'm going to go 1 minute further. I think the myths that we have around this are really important.
Play the game, Jeff.
What's that, Joe?
Play the game.
Play the game. I'm in the game, Joe. So one myth around this comes to me through Joe, which is Avalokiteshvara. It's like Avalokiteshvara took in, clear-eyed, the scale of the game change needed. What is it going to take to eliminate suffering? And his head popped open. Like, it was such a big deal. And then he got 11 heads and 1,000 arms, right? And the other myth that is more inside my system is the Christ, right? The Christ looks at the world and says, oh, there is so much need. I'll open my heart and just pour love into the world again and again and again. So I say that part of how I make sense of what we're up to is by what myths are we in? And both of those myths give us an appropriate relationship to scale. It really is that big of a deal. So it is a game. It's a big game. The stakes matter. And changing the rules so it works better, where we're at.
Okay, let's take a breath. Amen. Let's take a breath. Thank you, Jeff, for the gift that you brought to us. Am I right in what I said about him? Am I right or am I right? Not that I need to be right, and there is no right, but hey, makes sense. Anyway, thank you, Jeff. And so now we're going to move into the meditation part of this, the practice part of this, which I'm going to lead you in. So for those of you who are here for the first time, we'll have time afterwards to reflect. So if you have any comments or questions about that, let's save it for then. Or you can just add your love and heart in the chat if you like, not during the practice, of course, but around the practice. So for those of you here for the first time, this practice is based on a practice that I've developed called a core exercise. It's about coming in contact with your core and coming in contact with a deeper level of connection and presence to self, surroundings, and others, and your heart. So to start this practice, we sit in a way where our spines are straight, where your spine is straight, where you're not necessarily leaning against the chair, but you're actually sitting so that, because in this practice, again, this community is to build in terms of being, learning how to be more effective in the game, to cultivate a deeper level of resilience and fierce compassion, which is what can keep you in from not teetering into denial or acceptance, but staying in that place of the game change, to be part of the transformation. So this practice helps you cultivate that, to cultivate a deeper level of presence, awareness, balance, and flow. So sitting in a way where you can have the most balance and flow in your body. So elongating your spine without being rigid, also elongating from the back of your neck. So you're tilting your chin in a little bit. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your belly's relaxed. Your jaw's relaxed. And bringing awareness to your lower belly, a place in your lower belly, approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and a third of the way into the body. So if you put your fingers together like this, place your index finger over your navel, where your pinky resides, that's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel. From that point, bringing your attention now inside of your body, about a third of the way from the front of the body. See if it feels safe for you to close your eyes, to bring your full attention inside as we cultivate a sense of deeper listening. Bringing your full attention now to this spot, the width of 3 fingers below your navel, a third of the way into the body. Center, your core, center of gravity, impulse, creativity, personal power, your center of awareness. From your center, become aware of the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on and the floor, your contact points. From these points, as you feel those sensations of being supported by what you're sitting on and the floor, allowing yourself to drop in, whispering to your nervous system, you are held. Now we're sitting in power sit, focusing in your center and your contact points. From your center, become aware of your physical body. Cultivating a deeper relationship and a deeper level of listening to the wisdom of the body and the heart, learning its vocabulary, informing you of how things are in this moment. Valuable information through sensation, heart rate, depth of breath. From your center, become aware of your emotions. Maybe hundreds of emotions flowing through you. Which ones seem to be most on the surface you're present to? And without judgment, simply allow them to flow. All feelings are welcome. From your center, become aware of your thoughts, the quality of your thoughts. Practicing that experience of cultivating a deeper relationship with awareness as you observe your thoughts. Maintaining a connection with your core, you're the foundation of this practice, your center, your personal power, as you now bring awareness to your heart center, or the middle of your chest, where your heart power resides. Respect, compassion, courage. understanding, connection. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of the part of you that might have connection with something larger than yourself. Cultivating a stronger relationship from your core and your heart with that part of you that connects with something larger than yourself. And from that place, become aware of, in this moment, what your connection might be to something larger than yourself, which is always available to you. That might be something spiritual, could be highest values, humanity. Now, with more of an awareness of yourself in this present moment, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, from your center and from your heart, take a full deep breath in, into your heart, in through your nose, and out through your mouth. And from your center and from your heart, with more of awareness of yourself in this present moment, becoming aware of your surroundings, and imagine this curiosity and this excitement to connect with your surroundings as your own personal playground, your own personal game. The curiosity, the excitement, keeping your eyes closed, connecting with your surroundings in all directions, sounds and smells, placing yourself in a context, in this moment, in this place. And with more of an awareness of yourself and your surroundings in this present moment, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. And as we cultivate more presence with ourselves, checking in with your heart right now, your conviction for your desire to play the game of what's unfolding on this planet right now, being part of the process of transformation. And with that conviction in your heart and your core, your personal power, from your center and from your heart, become aware of those in this meditation circle. From various points of North America, various points of Europe, maybe around the world. From your center and from your heart, with honor and respect, to connect with the center, personal power, and the heart of those who are joining us in this meditation circle. Imagining us in a circle as fellow playmates in this game we're in, with honor and respect, joy, curiosity, maybe even a feeling of, I'm not alone in this. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And from your center and from your heart, with more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, take a deep breath in through your nose, and out through your mouth. With more of an awareness of yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, expanding your playground to include, and playmates to include, all human beings. First, beginning with those human beings that you would label loved ones. So from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label as loved one. Notice who arises in your heart. You might see faces, groups of people. Perhaps as you engage with them from your core, from your personal power and heart, with their personal power and heart, just checking in to see, in essence, how much there is an involvement from you to play the game, to be involved. Calling them into the game. Of cultural transformation, of a revival of a global heart. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label as stranger. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see, or groups of people? How many of them can you actually sense from your heart, from your personal power? And with honor and respect, calling them into the game. Cultural transformation and a revival of the global heart. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings that you would label adversary. Notice who arises in your heart. What faces do you see? Groups of people. Stretching your level of resilience and the heart muscle to include them in your heart as best as possible in this moment. You don't need to go on any overstress yourself. And from your center and from your heart, a genuine call to call them into the game of cultural transformation and a revival of a global heart. Noticing what's arising in you physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Might feel a sense of expansion or activation. All of that's welcome. And now taking all human beings into your heart, as we now narrow our focus with all human beings in your heart, bringing your awareness back to those in this meditation circle. Sense of community, shared conviction and experience. Taking those in this meditation circle into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings, keeping your eyes closed, allowing that to perhaps maybe even fill your surroundings. And taking your surroundings into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And taking a moment to just engage yourself. Maybe a higher call to playing the game with and for yourself and for all beings. Before we close this practice, just noticing the effects of this practice so far, the energy that you've generated, life-enhancing energy, you could say, taking that into your cells, to feed your cells, to feed your organs. Take it into your nervous system to remember this. Imagine whatever you're experiencing now, to let your nervous system remember this, to walk this into the world. As a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath. Deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Very slowly open your eyes, look around the room, stretch a little bit, shake a little bit. So we started with our motivation that Jeff shared with us. We brought that into our practice. We now have time to reflect. So if there's anyone who wants to share something that moved you or that you want to bring up from what Jeff spoke of or in the practice itself, feel free. So unmute. We have a few minutes. Who would like to share? Mika?
Thank you, Jeff. I love to be in the game with you all. And when we did the meditation, I remember a nice story of my son when he was 7 or 8 years old. He was playing on holiday with some other children. And there was a boy and he said, "Shall we be friends?" And my son said, were we fighting? And that's how they became friends. And when I did a meditation, I thought, oh, it's so easy. Shall we be friends? And you're in the game. And you don't have to fight before you're friends. So that's all.
Thank you, Mika.
Mika, it is a heart move, isn't it? Right? Encoded in the "shall we be friends?" It's a heart act.
I was also aware during the meditation that reality is we're all in the game. We're all in the game.
Whether we know it or not, or like it or not, right?
Like one of the things that maybe we could be successful with over time is to make the cost of losing less harsh, right? Like to the degree that it's always going to be a game. Sometimes when people lose, it's so awful what happens. And maybe we could just raise the floor in terms of cultural transformation so that nobody falls that far down.
And we can always raise the consciousness of our part in the game.
I've been listening to a book called Waking Up White, and I just am aware of the color of so many of the people here. And it just, your talk about the game made me think so much of that piece in the game, and that bringing our heart, that global heart, to that issue is so important. To have those qualities that you described of fairness and love and compassion, and that's what I would like to see. Thank you for your talk.
This is Tammy. I was at Thanksgiving with a group of people who are currently quite happy about the election outcome. And I'm struck by the comment about making losing less harsh. They were kind of going on about how ridiculous it is, the other side's response. How their response is quite ridiculous. And I was struck by how a lot of people were feeling 4 years ago, and how I heard, some of these same folks talking about, well, maybe the Electoral College will go against the vote. 4 years ago, I heard sort of similar, need for different kind of resolution. And so I just posited to the table, don't we actually know more about how folks are feeling on the other side than we're maybe willing to admit? We were them. And if we can hold that, keep that in mind and hold that in our hearts, how does it change how we engage with people now?
Thank you. Beautiful.
Maybe I can go. I was really moved by this whole thing about game changing, because at the beginning when you were talking, about game denial and acceptance, sometimes I get really discouraged in my life because I say, oh, I tend to accept. To accept the rules and how it is, and it's really discouraging. Sometimes I say, I cannot believe the world is like this. And I found it really, it gives me a lot of hope when you talk about changing, and that we have the power to change the rules, and we have the skills, and it gave me a lot of empowerment. So thank you so much. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I might be speaking mythology, but there's this guy, Todd Hoskins, here on the call, and there's a game change move he was doing in his local politics, which is while he was campaigning for a seat in the town council, he would show up at like debates and do two things. One is he would tell the truth about what he didn't know, and he would praise the wisdom of the other people running for the same seat. So like that's a model for how we can radically change the rules of the game, right? So shout out to you, Todd, for doing it.
Yay, Todd. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for your beautiful heart and your beautiful wisdom.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Thanks everybody for receiving me.
Thank you all for being here. And so as always, we end with a dedication. I feel like we've generated a lot of beautiful, beneficial energy. And let's take that energy and direct it towards where we think it's most needed. So for yourself, just in your heart, who arises in your heart? Who could use some good light and support and love and compassion at this moment? People suffering from illness, struggling in many ways, many ways. People struggling to breathe, whether that be physically or metaphorically. To all of those who've inspired us to play a bigger game, to play in the game. And as always, may all beings on this planet have enough fresh water to drink and food to eat. And may all governments govern and leaders govern from a place of wisdom as opposed to fear and greed. Okay, thank you all. So as we introduced last week, this week we offer this as a regular basis. We've introduced the possibility, if you'd like to make a contribution, if this touched you in some way on your heart, to make a contribution for this. The money will go towards the Fierce Civility Project. We're now raising money to do these kinds of projects to train people to be more resilient and resourceful, to step into the game, to be part of that cultural transformation. So if you want to make a contribution, here's the link. And tomorrow evening, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world, I think so, yeah. We're doing our final stress reduction meetup Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come and join us. It's fun. It takes this into really more of the resilience and training the nervous system to hold higher levels of intensity. Come and join us. That's also a contribution-based event. The link is and you can also find these events on our fiercecivility.org website, as well as our respectfulconfrontation.com website. So once again, have a great week. Look forward to seeing you next week. As I always say, think of some people you might want to invite, have them try this out. Love to see new faces. And deepest, deepest gratitude to you, Jeff, for all you bring to us and the world. Okay, be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.